Picture the scene. A mammoth goes down. The hunt is over. The group has been moving in sub-zero temperatures for hours, and the nearest shelter is hours away. The fire won't stay lit in the wind. And the body of the largest warm-blooded creature on the steppe is sitting right in front of them, still radiating heat. What would you do? Here's the thing. Your instinct about what ancient humans did next is probably shaped by a pop culture image, the idea of cutting open an animal and climbing inside to stay warm. It's in science fiction. It's referenced in survival guides. It's a vivid, memorable picture. And the reality is more interesting, more engineered, and more connected to the jacket you put on this morning than you've ever been told. To understand how ancient humans actually used animal bodies for survival and what it built in the process, we need to untangle 5 things. What the archaeological evidence actually shows about ancient humans and animal bodies, the specific thermal engineering they discovered inside a fresh kill, how that discovery became the first sleeping bag, what happened when they scaled this technology up from single hides to full shelters, and what the sleeping bag you own today owes to a mammoth killed on the Eurasian steppe 30,000 years ago. Let's go. Here's where the pop culture version breaks down, and where the real story starts. The sleep inside the carcass image comes mostly from fiction, survival films, science fiction, video games. The documented ethnographic record tells a different story. What Arctic hunters, the closest living analog to Ice Age survival conditions, actually did with a large kill was not climb inside it. They processed it, immediately, systematically, and with a specific order of priority that put thermal resources first. Inuit hunters butchering a large kill in extreme cold would work in a particular sequence: secure the hide before it froze, extract fat before it hardened, use the residual body heat of the carcass as a temporary workstation while processing. The animal wasn't a sleeping bag. It was a thermal resource to be extracted, redesigned, and worn. But the extraction process taught them something the animal had already figured out over millions of years. A fresh animal hide is one of the most sophisticated thermal technologies that exists in nature, and ancient humans figured out how to copy it before they had a word for insulation. The structure of a bear's winter coat, to take the specific example documented at the Schöningen site in Lower Saxony, Germany, where cut-marked bear bones provide the earliest confirmed evidence of deliberate hide use approximately 300,000 years ago, consists of 2 distinct layers. The outer layer, long guard hairs that shed wind and moisture, creating a water-resistant shell. The inner layer, dense, fine underfur that traps warm air against the body, preventing convective heat loss. Together, they form a system that keeps a hibernating bear alive in temperatures that would kill an unprotected human in minutes. The key detail about bear hibernation fur is that it is uniquely dense, evolved specifically for sustained insulation during extended cold exposure. A researcher from the University of Tübingen, commenting on the Schöningen bear hide evidence, noted that bears need this strongly insulating fur for hibernation, and that the cut marks on the bones indicate people in Northern Europe were using bear skins to survive winter approximately 300,000 years ago. This is the oldest confirmed evidence of deliberate hide use for warmth. 300,000 years, long before Homo sapiens, attributed to Homo heidelbergensis. But here's the thermal principle they had discovered. When you take a fresh hide and wrap it around a human body with the fur side inward, the dense underfur against the skin, you create a microclimate. The hair traps a thin layer of air between it and the skin. That air warms to body temperature and stays there, insulated by the fur from the cold outside. You are, effectively, wearing the animal's own thermal system, not mimicking it, literally using it. At -20 degrees Celsius, the difference between lying on frozen ground unprotected and lying inside a properly positioned animal hide is the difference between dying and waking up. This is not a small margin. This is the entire margin. Somewhere on the Eurasian steppe, 300,000 years ago, a hominid wrapped themselves in a bear skin and discovered that the bear had already solved the problem they were trying to solve. The bear just hadn't been using it anymore. Now take this discovery and scale it. What happens when you don't just wear the hide, when you construct an enclosure out of it. Here's the find that makes this concrete. At Sibudu Cave in South Africa, archaeologists discovered bedding materials dating to approximately 77,000 years ago. Compressed layers of sedge grass topped with insulating plant material arranged in sleeping spaces. This is the oldest confirmed evidence of deliberately constructed sleeping areas in the archaeological record. But in the Ice Age steppe of Eastern Europe and Siberia, where grass bedding was scarce and temperatures were lethal, the sleeping surface was different. Multiple Paleolithic sites show evidence of animal hide used as ground insulation, laid fur side up, creating a thermal buffer between the sleeping body and the frozen earth. The hide sleeping bag, a wrap that enclosed the entire body in animal insulation, is documented ethnographically across Arctic cultures from the Inuit of Canada to the Nenets of Siberia. All of them independently arrived at the same design. That's not coincidence. That's physics. The convergent invention of the animal hide sleeping bag across independent Arctic cultures is one of the most striking examples of what evolutionary biologists call convergent technology. The same solution to the same problem arrived at independently by different groups with no contact. The Inuit used double-layered caribou hide sleeping bags, an inner bag worn fur side inward against the body, an outer bag worn fur side outward to shed moisture. The Nenets of the Siberian Arctic used reindeer hide in the same double-layer configuration. The Yupik used seal and sea mammal hide. In every case, the engineering principle is identical. Use the animal's own insulation system, redesigned for a body that can't generate enough heat on its own. The thermal performance of a properly constructed caribou hide sleeping bag is extraordinary by any standard. Arctic explorers who adopted Inuit sleeping systems in the 19th century documented surviving temperatures of -40 degrees Celsius with no fire and no shelter, conditions that killed European explorers using wool blankets. The Norwegian explorer Fridtjof Nansen, preparing to ski across Greenland in 1888, spent time with the Inuit specifically to study their sleeping technology. He sewed sealskins together to create the sleeping bags his team would use and credited this directly with their survival. This is where the archaeology and the ethnography converge on the same point. The animal hide sleeping bag is not a primitive improvisation. It is a precision thermal technology that outperforms most modern synthetic alternatives in extreme cold, and that was independently invented by every culture that faced the problem it solves. The question that follows is, how did this technology travel backward in time? When did the principle start? The answer from the archaeological record is much earlier than most people assume. The bone needle, first confirmed at approximately 50,000 years ago, with disputed examples as early as $60,000, implies something critical. A needle means thread. Thread means joined pieces. Joined pieces means tailored garments. And tailored garments means someone understood that the insulating properties of a hide depended on fit, on eliminating the gaps at the wrists, the neck, the ankles, where cold air enters and warm air escapes. A hide draped over a body is insulation. A tailored hide garment is a system. The needle is the artifact that tells you the system was understood. From the sleeping surface of hide on frozen ground, to the wrapped sleeping hide, to the tailored sleeping bag, what you are tracing is a single continuous line of applied thermal engineering, running from at least 300,000 years ago to the sleeping bag in your closet. The materials changed. The physics never did. The modern sleeping bag has a temperature rating, a stuff sack, and a brand name. The ancestral version had a mammoth's name. Both of them are doing exactly the same thing. Step back, and the sleeping inside dead animals image dissolves into something genuinely more impressive. Ancient humans didn't climb inside carcasses for warmth. They did something harder and smarter. They recognized that the animal had solved a thermal problem they needed to solve, extracted the solution from the animal's body, and redesigned it for human use. Not once, in one place, by one group. Independently, across dozens of cultures, across hundreds of thousands of years, wherever the problem was severe enough to demand a solution. The mammoth bone shelters covered in hide at Meserich, the bear skin sleeping surfaces at Schöningen. the caribou hide double sleeping bags of the Inuit, the reindeer skin bags of the Nenets, the needle at Denisova Cave. These aren't isolated artifacts. They're chapters in one continuous story. Humans encountering the thermal engineering the animal kingdom had spent millions of years developing and learning piece by piece to apply it. You are alive because a very long chain of people figured out how to wear dead animals correctly. That is less gross and more impressive than it sounds. Here's the one thing. The next time you put on a down jacket or climb into a sleeping bag or pull a thick blanket over yourself in a cold room, notice what you're holding. Down is the compressed underfur of a bird. The insulation principle in your sleeping bag is a direct descendant of the principle ancient humans extracted from bear and caribou hides 300,000 years ago. The design has been refined, the materials sourced differently, the manufacturing industrialized, but the thermal mechanism is identical. You are still using the animal's solution. You've just automated the extraction. Your relationship to animal warmth didn't start this winter. It started before your species did, before modern humans existed, in a moment when a hominid on a frozen steppe wrapped themselves in a bear that had already solved the cold problem and realized the answer was always in the animal. We've been borrowing it ever since. And if the idea that your most basic survival technologies were borrowed from animals impresses you, wait until you hear what ancient humans borrowed from the darkest part of the night itself. Not just warmth, something else that happened around the fire after the hide was hung and the cold was locked outside. What ancient humans actually did at night, and why your brain still craves it, that one's already up.